Ministry of External Affairs has rejected Canada's Foreign Interference Commission report, which paints India as the second most active country in foreign electoral meddling after China. Now, New Delhi fired back, turning the tables and accusing Canada of chronic interference in India's internal affairs, creating a breeding ground, in fact, for illegal migration and organized crime. While the initial Canadian report from May 2023 identified China as the most sophisticated foreign interference threat to the country, the final report claims India had followed suit, engaging through diplomatic channels and proxies. However, New Delhi clearly isn't buying China's smoke and mirrors act anymore. The Stampede injured dozens of people early Wednesday as tens of thousands of Hindus rushed to take a holy bath in the river at the massive Mahakumbh festival underway in North India's Prayagraj. Images from the scene in the city of Prayagraj showed rescuers helping injured as the police tried to manage the massive crowds. It was not immediately clear what triggered the panic at the festival, where devotees had congregated from across the world to bathe at the confluence of the Ganges, the Yamuna and the mythical Saraswati rivers. News agency Press Trust of India cited authorities who said injured was sent to a hospital. The Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, has marked its 100th launch by putting a navigation satellite into space on Wednesday. The latest rocket launched into dark skies at the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Andhra Pradesh's Sriharikota, using the Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle, or the GSLV F-15. The rocket powered into the early morning skies, putting the second NBS-02 navigation satellite into orbit. Once fully operational, the navigation with Indian Constellation, or NAV-IC, will work alongside other Indian navigation systems already in orbit to provide more accurate position, velocity, and even timing services to India and its neighboring regions, the ISRO has said in a statement. Trains were cancelled across Bangladesh as railway staff went on strike for higher pensions and other benefits. Now, this affected tens of thousands of passengers and freight transport. Saidur Rahman, the acting president of the Bangladesh Railway Running Staff and Workers Union, said the strike was called after a meeting, in fact, with the interim government headed by Nobel Peace Prize laureate Muhammad Yunus, failed to reach a deal late Monday. Now, Rahman said the strike would continue indefinitely if the government does not accept their demands. The state-run railway system carries some 65 million passengers per year in a densely populated nation of 170 million people. Moreover, it employs around 25,000 people and operates a network of over 36,000 kilometers. In a bold diplomatic move, US President Donald Trump has invited Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to meet at the White House next week. Now, the invitation, the first of its kind during Trump's second term, is scheduled for the 4th of February, although some details are still up in the air. Now, this is according to White House sources. The meeting is set to address key regional issues. This includes the volatile ceasefire deal with Hamas, which Trump's envoy Stephen Witkoff has been pushing for Netanyahu, who faces mounting pressure from the far right, in fact, of his coalition to resume fighting with the militant group. He is expected to discuss his position on continuing the war and other thorny matters, such as relations with Iran and even Saudi Arabia. Drone footage showed the destruction of buildings in Gaza City's Tel Al-Hawa neighborhood, where thousands have arrived for the first time since Monday after more than 15 months of ongoing war. Crowds of displaced Palestinians made the arduous journey back to heavily destroyed northern Gaza for a second day on Tuesday under a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. The United Nations says that more than 375,000 Palestinians have returned to the north since Israel started letting them on Monday. Meanwhile, families are walking for hours along a seaside road with whatever belongings and food they can carry. The first official Russian delegation to visit Syria since the toppling of the long-term Moscow ally Bashar al-Assad arrived in Damascus on Tuesday. Now, the visit comes as Moscow is keen to secure the fate of 2 military bases in the country, and after Russian President Vladimir Putin, in fact, denied that Moscow had suffered a strategic defeat in West Asia following the fall of Assad. The Russian delegation, which is due to meet the new leadership of the war-ravaged country, includes Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Bogdanov, Putin's special envoy to the Middle East and Africa, as well as Alexander Lavrov, the president's special envoy on Syria, RIA Novosti reported. Moscow was one of Assad's key backers, intervening in Syria's civil war in 2015 in his favor. A federal judge has temporarily blocked a push from President Donald Trump to pause federal funding. This while his administration conducts an across-the-board ideological review to uproot progressive initiatives. That's right. The Trump administration plan plunged the U.S. government and states and organizations that rely on federal funding into panic and confusion and set the stage for a constitutional clash over the control of taxpayer money. The order from U.S. District Judge Lauren L. Ali Khan came minutes before the funding freeze was scheduled to go into effect. Meanwhile, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz harshly stamped President Donald Trump for funding freeze, while Attorney General Keith Ellison said he would be joining with other Democratic Attorney Generals in suing, in fact, for an injunction to block the president's action. A federal judge has temporarily blocked the freeze on federal grants and loans that could total trillions of U.S. dollars. In fact, U.S. Judge Lauren L. Ali Khan blocked the action on Tuesday afternoon, minutes before it was set to go into effect. The administrative stay pauses the freeze until Monday. For now, Walz, who was Kamala Harris's running mate in the 2024 election, said Trump did not get a mandate for such draconian action. Listen in.
Donald Trump's reckless action cut off funding to law enforcement, farmers, schools, childcare, veterans, and healthcare. While he was out golfing, he threw the country into crisis. This is not bold. It's not leadership. It's stupid, buffoonish, childish of exactly what they did. Childcare providers across the state, law enforcement, our prisons, things that we count on, individuals on Medicare, things that we know matter to people's lives.
Dead bodies lay on the streets and explosions and gunfire echoed across the largest city in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, or the DRC, on Tuesday. This as fighting continued to rage between the army and Rwanda's M23 rebels. Residents reported continuing gun and mortar fire in Goma, the capital of North Kivu province and a regional humanitarian hub for displaced people, after M23 fighters entered the city on Sunday. At least 100 people have been killed and more than 1,000 wounded in 3 days of heavy fighting, which has already exacerbated the humanitarian crisis in the province. In fact, hospitals were overwhelmed by patients with gunshots and shrapnel wounds, UN and other aid agencies said on Tuesday. The first flights carrying migrants deported from the United States to Colombia after a major diplomatic row have arrived in the capital, Bogota. The Colombian government confirmed on Tuesday that 2 planes carrying migrants had indeed landed. A total of 201 migrants, 110 sent from California and the remaining 90 from Texas, were on board. An Italian Navy ship arrived Tuesday in Albania with 49 migrants intercepted in the international waters for processing of their asylum applications at the special Albanian centers, in the third such attempt, in fact, following hurdles earlier raised by Italian courts. Italy's Interior Ministry did not specify the nationality of the migrants brought to the port of Shenzhen, 66 kilometers northwest of the capital, Tirana. But Italian media, however, said they were from Bangladesh, Egypt, Ivory Coast, and Gambia. Local media reported that 5 of the migrants, 2 Bangladeshis, 2 Gambians, and an Ivorian, would be taken to Italy because 4 of them were minors and the 5th, a quote-unquote vulnerable person, without giving more details. Migrants in Mexico who were hoping to go to the U.S. were adjusting to a new reality. This after President Donald Trump began a border crackdown last week. Many asylum seekers waited on Tuesday outside the office of the Mexican Commission for Refugee Aid in Mexico City, in fact, hoping to regularize their status to be able to remain in the country. Now, Trump took office on the 20th of January and signed a series of executive orders to, in fact, beef up border security and slash migration. One ended the use of CBP, one app that has allowed nearly 1 million people mainly seeking asylum, to legally enter the US since January 2023.
Quiere hacer tramitido para ver si tiene documento para entrar familia aquí, trabajar aquí, viviendo aquí, comprar casa aquí para viviendo.
The Oklahoma State Board of Education voted Tuesday to approve a proposal requiring parents to report their immigration or citizenship status while enrolling their children in school. Now, the board discussed the proposal for about 20 minutes before approving it and other proposals in a 6-0 vote. The proposal still needs to be approved by the legislature and the governor to take effect. This is per state administrative rules. Malaysia's Chinese community celebrated the Lunar New Year with prayers at various temples in the capital of Kuala Lumpur. Part of the celebration included firecrackers and lion dancers with drums cheering crowds and devotees alike. Packed scenes at the Guandi Temple near Kuala Lumpur's Chinatown saw people visiting temples and enjoying performances. The celebrations mark the Year of the Snake, according to traditional Chinese zodiac calendar. People anxious to see what had become of their properties after the Palisades fire ignited 3 weeks ago waited in their cars for hours for permission to return after officials lifted, in fact, the last remaining evacuation orders. A line of vehicles snaked along the Pacific Coast Highway as motorists inched into a beachside parking lot in Santa Monica. This is where they had to show ID to receive a permit that allowed them to drive into the burn zone. They have to be out of the area by nightfall because a curfew still remains in effect. In fact, officials began letting residents of select areas return starting last week, but only with a police escort. On Monday afternoon, the city lifted all remaining evacuation orders and dropped the escort requirement.
It's nice, it's hard to sort of, look at this, but it's nice to find those little things that at one point didn't mean so much. Plates are plates, but now they're, a memory to sort of look back on and see the house and where we were for my whole life.
California Governor Gavin Newsom announced a new private sector initiative called LA Rises. Now, this to aid in the recovery from the Los Angeles wildfires. The initiative, supported by leaders like Dodgers chairman Mark Walter and Magic Johnson, aims to rebuild affected communities, including Altadena, Pasadena, and Pacific Palisades. The Mark Walter Family Foundation and the Los Angeles Dodgers Foundation, in fact, have pledged $100 million to kickstart the effort, with additional funds coming from private donations. LA Rises will pool resources from the private sector alongside state and federal support to, in fact, expedite recovery. It's time we slip into a short break now. I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching The World Report on NDTV. After Coldplay's biggest concert ever at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad, with over 1 lakh footfall on the 26th of January, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday said India has a scope of live concerts. Addressing the Utkarsh Odisha conclave in Bhubaneswar, PM Modi underscored the vast potential of India's concert economy. He called on states and the private sector to focus on building the infrastructure for the concert economy. Boeing on Tuesday reported an annual loss of $11.83 billion, its largest since 2020. Now this as it grapples with problems at its commercial and defense units and the fallout from a crippling strike by US West Coast factory workers. The loss demonstrates the challenges facing CEO Kelly Ortberg in turning around the plane maker as it cedes more ground control to rival Airbus in the delivery race, and even comes under the crosshairs of regulators and customers alike following a series of missteps. Google's Maps division has reclassified the US as a sensitive country, a designation it reserves for states with strict governments and borders disputes. As per reports, the new classification for the US came after President Donald Trump said his administration would in fact make name changes on official maps in federal communications. Those changes include renaming the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America and renaming Mount Denali as Mount McKinley. Google's order to stop designating the US as a non-sensitive country came on Monday. Now, this is according to an internal correspondence as per reports. 200 UK companies have signed up for a permanent 4-day working week for all their employees with no loss of pay, in the latest landmark in the campaign to reinvent Britain's working week. Together, the companies employ more than 5,000 people, with charities, marketing and technology firms among the best represented. This is according to the latest update from the 4-day week foundation. Proponents of the 4-day week say that the 5-day pattern is in fact a hangover from an earlier economic age. Joe Ryle, the foundation's campaign director, said that 9 to 5, a 5-day working week, was invented 100 years ago and is no longer fit for purpose. In fact, we are long overdue an update, he said. International Cricket Council CEO Geoff Allardyce has decided to step down just weeks before the Champions Trophy, with a board member indicating that his failure to present a clear picture for Pakistan's lack of preparedness is one of the multiple reasons behind the move. The 57-year-old joined the ICC in 2012 as General Manager of Cricket, coming from Cricket Australia, where he served as Cricket Operations Manager. He was appointed CEO of the ICC in November 2021, after having served as acting CEO for 8 months. Rapper A$AP Rocky has finished court for the day. After Tuesday's testimony, he looked upbeat and waved off to onlookers as he walked with security to his waiting vehicle. Rocky's accuser, meanwhile, a former friend and the key witness, testified that their relationship had long been tense and came to a head in the days before Rocky is alleged to have fired a handgun at him. Rocky, the rapper and partner of Rihanna, has pleaded not guilty to 2 felony counts of assault with a semi-automatic firearm for allegedly firing at the friend who goes by A$AP Relly. He's famous, Relly told the jury, "I am nobody." 2 of the most powerful names in showbiz today, Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon, are calling for more productions to be filmed in Los Angeles to help the city's economy after the devastating wildfires this month. Now, the actors are promoting their new comedy film, You're Cordially Invited, about 2 families that book a wedding at the same venue on the same day.
Yeah, I think it's important that productions that are in California, that we keep them there. We keep our business going and thriving, and we want to make sure people are staying employed and having the benefits that they are used to. And it's a devastating time.
It would be amazing. It'd be a moment where the state of California could make a across-the-board tax credit as opposed to a lottery system. This would be the time.
The 48th Kolkata International Book Fair, one of the world's largest book fairs in terms of footfall, is underway in the Garden City. With Germany being the theme country this year, the German ambassador, in fact, to India and Bhutan, Philip Ackerman, described the Kolkata Book Fair as the Kumbh Mela, Bengali style, and spoke to NDTV on this partnership. Listen in to this exclusive conversation with the German envoy.
Sir, you made a statement that many believe that was the best description the Kolkata Book Fair could have ever had. You said it's the Kumbh Mela Bengali style. Tell me why you feel so.
Well, I think Kolkata and Bengal are the cultural and artistic heart of India, and I think there is no better place for such a book fair. And you see, you have over 2 million visitors, so it's really a big mela. I mean, there are very many people, and that shows the interest that people in West Bengal and elsewhere have in books. And Kolkata Book Fair is a household name. It's the 48th edition. I'm very impressed by the sheer size and the dedication. We have heard the Chief Minister speaking during the inauguration ceremony, and I think it is a event that is dear to the heart of Bengali. So it's a Kumbh Mela in a way.
And we spoke, I think you spoke, and you touched upon, and the Chief Minister touched upon the specific sort of cultural and literary ties between India and Germany. And, the examples of authors and, the inspiration that our authors have taken from Germany and vice versa. Tell us a little bit about that. What stands out for you in terms of this collaboration at the book fair?
So I think Indo-German roots when it comes to culture go back to the 19th century, where Max Müller, the famous Max Müller, started to translate the Rig Ved and interpret it and explain it to the public in the West. But through the ages, we have a very, very rich Indology also with non-Hindi language like Kannada or Malayalam, and you have a very, very strong German interest in these parts of the country and strong research also at German universities. But what we see here now is more than that. It's not only the tradition, it's the modern, the open-minded Germany. And what the Goethe-Institut Max Müller-Brandt did here in this pavilion was basically showcasing that Germany is much more than Max Müller, although it's very important, but we have a very modern, diverse, extremely vibrant and colorful Germany to show.